formless in another sense. The formless world is the wiggly world. You see, when we say something is shapeless, like a cloud, what shape has this cloud? You say, well, it's so vague, it's shapeless. That's the real formless world. The formal world is the one that human beings try to construct all the time. See, wherever human beings have been around, you see rectangles and straight lines, because we're always trying to straighten things out. And so that's the very mark of our presence. I don't know why we do it. It's always been a puzzle to me why architects are always using rectangles. But the thing is that they make us feel very uncomfortable if they don't. I have an architect friend who built somebody a house like a snail shell. And it spiraled in and in and in and in, and the John was right at the center. Spiral. But everybody rebels against this house. They feel very uncomfortable. You see, the furniture doesn't fit. Because all furniture is made to fit in a rectilinear scene. And we're always putting things in boxes. See, all thoughts, all words are labels on boxes. Therefore, we feel we've got to get everything boxed. And so we put ourselves in boxes. Everything is put in boxes. But actually, everything else in nature doesn't go that way. As, for example, the snail doesn't put itself in a box. The crab doesn't put itself in a box. It has these fascinating, gorgeous objects. What is, for example, more beautiful than a conch shell or a lovely scallop shell? Well, these are gorgeous things. We could make the most delicious shells out of concrete or plastics. They could be very beautiful. And we could distribute ourselves over the landscape like shellfish along the seashore. But instead we have to live in boxes. And there's nothing, you can't fight it, it's the system. So, then you have to, you begin to build your furniture and chairs, everything, accordingly to these shapes, because they're easy to store away in a place that is a box in the first place. But you see, then that is this rectilineal world. This is unspiritual. This is the world of what we will call the artificial, as distinct from the natural. And when we live in a world like that, we begin to have ourselves bamboozled by it. You begin to think that reality is this sort of straightened out situation that we all have to live in. And you don't remember that reality is precisely the wiggly world, you see. We don't realize that we are all wiggly. The problem is that we wiggle in rather the same way. We have head, 2 arms, 2 legs, etc. But notice how we do all sorts of things to ourselves to sort of evade our wiggliness. The way we dress, especially men. Women are allowed to be a little bit more curvaceous and wiggly than men are. It's somewhat appreciated. But men go around in these square-cut suits and straight pants. They're really, these clothes that we wear in the West are originally military uniforms. Do you know that? That's why they have buttons on the sleeve. Because they used to have buttons all the way up the sleeves so that people wouldn't wipe their noses on their sleeves. They were livery, in other words. And this uniform is being adopted all over the world. I was in Ceylon in November. And the moment I got to Ceylon, I saw the men were going around in sarongs with long white shirts over them. So I bought such an outfit. It was terribly hot, and therefore this kind of clothing was extremely comfortable. They wear a sort of a stole, usually yellow or orange, which is a little scarf with fringe around your neck. And it's a most easy, wonderful garment for loafing around in. Well, I was invited to speak at the University of Ceylon, Kandy, and I found when I got there, I found that it was a very tense atmosphere because there was a great degree of anti-American feeling because we cut off aid and they don't approve of our behavior in Vietnam and all that kind of thing. So I was an American speaker, and when I appeared, they started booing. But I was wearing Sinhalese clothes. And I got up and said, I had an interpreter who was a very bright psychology graduate student. And I got up and said, ladies and gentlemen, and the gentlemen, incidentally, were all wearing white shirts and pants. And I got up and said, ladies and gentlemen, I have purposely put on tonight your national dress. For the first reason, it is practical. You have developed this over many hundreds of years as the right kind of clothes to wear in this climate, and I find it very suitable. The second is, it is properly adapted to male anatomy. And there's a big laugh at this. And the interpreter whispered to me, he said, you meant it that way, didn't you? I said, yes. But you know, that broke the ice. And there was no further trouble. But you see, there is a curious paradox about this. That kind of clothing follows the wiggliness of things and doesn't contradict it. But what is the paradoxical about it is that both these Sinhalese clothes and Japanese clothes and Indonesian clothes don't attempt to violate the nature of cloth. And they are more rectangular than our clothes. But they don't look that way when you put them on. You can take a kimono and fold it and pack it away. And when you unpack, you don't have to have it pressed. The Sinhalese Minister of Education's wife was talking to us about saris. She said, I've got these saris, I can pack 20 saris into a small suitcase. And when I travel, I can wear 3 a day. They're nothing but an enormous piece of woven material, rectilinear. But they feel, you see, that since it is the nature of cloth to be woven this way and to be rectilinear, you shouldn't violate the nature of cloth when you make clothes. And so we, with all these fitted clothes that we have, with this extraordinary shoulder work and so on, they're impossible to pack. Every time you travel with a business suit, you have to get it pressed if you want to look decent. And that's true of many women's clothes, too. But by following the nature of cloth and not violating it, the cloth then will follow the nature of your body. And it will gracefully adapt to it and hang in just the right way. And by, as it were, respecting the physical world, in either case, it all goes together. But this world, this physical world, is wiggly. And this is the most important thing to realize about it. As I've sometimes said, we're living in the middle of a Rorschach blot. And there really is no way that the physical world is. In other words, the nature of truth, I said in the beginning, somebody had said that thoughts were made to conceal truth. This is the fact, because there is no such thing as the truth that can be stated. In other words, ask the question, what is the true position of the stars in the Big Dipper? Well, it depends where you're looking at them from. And there is no absolute position. So in the same way, accountants, a good accountant will tell you that any balance sheet is simply a matter of opinion. There's no such thing as a true state of affairs of a business. But we're all hooked on the idea that there is, you see, an external objective world which is a certain way.